Welcome back to the devlog series for our indie game, Wild Ice. If you're new to the channel, Wild Ice is an open world, tower defense, hockey game, mixed with some survival elements. My name is Andrew Farrell, and together with my wife Hannah, we've been working hard to bring this game to life. Today we're going to be focusing on navigation, both for enemies and the player. If you haven't already subscribed to the channel yet, it's only getting better. There's also a Steam wishlist link in the description below. It's free and it really helps out our tiny dev team. Let's start with our enemies, aka Frosties. They do already have some logic that moves them around the open world. Under the hood, it's all driven by a plugin that's called Behavior Designer, and that uses behavior trees to drive their movement, and that all seems to be working. But now I have to crack them open and inject a whole bunch of new logic. So right now, all of our enemies are running single file towards their goal of destroying your furnace, taking the shortest path to get there. And it makes a lot of sense when you think about it from their point of view. They've been fed a destination and they just want to get there as fast as possible. But the problem is we've laid out a nice wide path for the enemies to occupy and for you to place traps on, but they aren't being traveled. So our approach to fixing this is to give them checkpoints along the way before they get to their final destination. Each checkpoint is going to be split up into 5 lanes, and each enemy will have a preferred lane that they would like to take. We chose 5 because you could potentially spawn them 5 at a time and it would feel like a line change in hockey. Basically anywhere we can inject some hockey influence, we try to. Our checkpoint system is starting to take shape and it's looking pretty cool. There's 3 doors that the enemies can enter, so there's one down here, one here, and one here, and those are all reflective of the periods of hockey. Now, previously in our playtesting, the enemies followed something that looked similar to this red path, and if you put traps anywhere else, it was basically useless. So now you can see that as enemies take a preferred path, so if their preferred path is blue, they'll actually be walking this outer edge, so you could place a trap way out here and it should get some mileage too. And then another problem I just wanted to show you here is that if you take a look at this path, the blue actually hooks up to the red path. And that was pretty hard to design because before it looked a little bit like this. And now all these paths are just crisscrossing. So I was worried the AI were actually gonna trip over each other. So I came up with a lane priority system and you can override it. Pathfinding. I finally got it all hooked up in game, and I couldn't have done it without rewatching this YouTube series that actually helped me get started on pathfinding. It's all about something called the A-star algorithm and how to implement that into Unity. I'm in no way affiliated with it, I just thought I'd share something that helped me get started when we first started doing pathfinding on our previous game, Path of Giants. Alright, here it is, working in game. The green boxes are the overall checkpoints, and within that is a collection of 5 targets that they are all trying to hit. Above each enemy's head is the preferred color of the path they'd like to take, and then you can see when they reach their destination, sometimes that color switches. That's because they do a little dice roll and say, oh, 50% of the time, I'm gonna stay in my lane, bro. 30% of the time, I'll go 1 lane left or right, and 20% of the time, I'll go 2 lanes over. I like it, and I think it's working really well. It should give your traps way more purpose. The only thing I'm not really liking is that when they get to their checkpoints, they recalculate the path to the next checkpoint and it looks a little bit jagged. So this is something I can improve as time goes on, but for now, I'm gonna move on to the player navigation. Something that has become clear after playing through both the open world and tower defense combat is not knowing where you are or where you're going. So let's start with tower defense combat. We needed an overall picture of where enemies are in relation to the furnace, so we've added a mini map. It's only enabled during tower defense combat, that way we aren't cluttering your screen during the open world moments. You might be playing a really offensive game, focusing on the front lines, but leaving a hole in your defenses. So now you know if you need to hustle back to your net. And if you're playing split screen, the position of the map changes from the top right corner to the center of screen, so both players know what's up. And now onto the open world. We've been implementing a compass system, which is really helping us navigate our map. You can open up the larger quest map from your menu to put down waypoints, and when you get close to those waypoints, they actually disappear. And as per usual, split screen always presents a big challenge as each player has their own waypoints, and you don't want to render player 2's waypoints on player 1's camera, and it's a whole thing, but long story short, that's working. So with the addition of the mini-map and compass, we feel that navigating our world has become way simpler. Another thing that's been grinding our gears for navigating our world is what happens when you die. While we spent lots of dev time implementing a bedroll system that spawns you in the last place you had a bedroll, we thought we'd just hurl all that work into the trash can because with the new focus on tower defense combat, that system was no longer working. If you're in the middle of a heated tower defense battle, you don't want to die and respawn super far away from all the fun. So we've created a safe house system. Now when you die, you awaken a nearby safe house and can run quickly back into the combat. We're thinking you lose your inventory, but can go back to the last place you died to collect it. We still have to punish dying, otherwise it could be abused as a fast travel mechanic. There's also a few more improvements made for tower defense that have nothing to do with navigation, but we wanted to share those features with you. These are all about giving feedback for how you're doing. So first up, what happens when you win or lose a tower defense game? As it stands, we just had a basic you win or you lose screen, and while we always knew this was placeholder, we wanted to give the player real gratification for winning by showing your performance results and giving out rewards. So here's a quick look at the work in progress for that. We've also implemented an experience point system. So if you travel the open world and kill a few enemies, you get some points for that. If you complete a furnace event, and depending on the difficulty, you can get a lot of points for that. And with enough points, you level up and get a skill point. You can use that skill point to spend on traps and upgrades and that sort of thing. Well, I think that about sums up these last few weeks for us. As always, thank you so much for joining us on our development journey. If you could give us a wish list on Steam, that would be awesome. If you want to be notified when the next devlog drops, which I think is going to be all about combat, so that's going to be super fun, be sure to give our channel a sub and hit that bell icon for notifications. Thanks again, and cheers.